Welcome to Bright Minds. I am the Seeker. I seek the truth about reality. Before I start talking about knowledge, I'd like to remind you that I'm not a philosopher, and I might make some mistakes. This is a simplified explanation of what I'm gonna explain. To look further into this topic, or have a thorough explanation, I provide you with links to sources in the description below. Okay then, let's start. Knowledge is treated in the branch of philosophy called Epistemology, which is concerned with the theory of knowledge, the nature of knowledge, justification, and the rationality of belief. What is knowledge? What constitutes knowledge? When can we say that we know some fact, or that something is true? Of course, there are different kinds of knowledge, like knowing a person, as in you know Steve or Stephanie, knowing how to do something, as in you know how to swim, or knowing a fact, as in you know that the sun gives light and heat. It's the latter kind of knowledge that we will be concerned with in this video. Knowing a fact. Keeping that in mind, what is knowledge? In its simplest definition, knowledge is justified true belief. Perhaps you immediately recognize three conditions for knowledge. And you are right. First, knowledge has to be a belief, as we can't say that Steve knows that X is true without his believing that X is true. It doesn't make sense to say, I know that the moon is not made of cheese, but I don't believe that the moon is not made of cheese. It just doesn't make sense. Second, for a belief to be considered knowledge, it has to be true. It has to conform to reality. To be able to say that I know that Stephanie is a doctor, she must, in reality, be a doctor. Which is to say that my belief about her being a doctor is true. I am right. To better understand this point, think about this. It is possible to say that Steve believes that Stephanie is a doctor, but he is wrong. In reality, she is a nurse. However, it doesn't make sense to say that Steve knows that Stephanie is a doctor, but he is wrong. When we say Steve knows something, it must be that his belief about it is true. Third, for a true belief to be considered knowledge, it has to be justified. If Steve guesses that Stephanie is a doctor, that does not constitute knowledge, even though she is really a doctor. Even if Steve believes Stephanie is a doctor, but for the wrong reason, that's not knowledge, that's luck. He believes she is a doctor because he saw her leaving the hospital, for example. Although she happens to really be a doctor, we can't say that Steve knows that. She could have been a nurse, a patient, or a visitor. The justification for his belief is insufficient or flawed. To summarize that, knowledge should be a belief. That belief should be true, and one should be justified in having that true belief. Perhaps it's easy to understand what a belief is. So let's talk about truth and conformation to reality. As for justification, it can be a bit tricky. That's why we'll leave it for future videos. For now, let's focus on truth and reality. When we talk about reality, we can distinguish between two kinds of reality, the external reality and the internal reality. External reality is the external world, outside of our minds. That's what I call objective reality. We perceive the external world through our senses, and we build our presentation of it in our minds. That's what I call perceived reality. Here, let's agree, at least for now, that objective reality exists, and that it is one. It is independent of the minds of the perceivers. If two people disagree whether there is only an apple or only an orange on a table, they can't both be right. It has to be either only an apple, only an orange, or something else. I'll clarify with an example, and I'll make it clear and obvious for the sake of this video. Let's say that out there in objective reality there is an apple on a table. Let's say that Steve looks at the apple, What happens? I won't go into the physiological details of how vision works, so let's just say that Steve creates a representation of the apple and the table in his mind. Steve now believes that there is an apple on a table out there in the external world. In other words, he believes that his perceived reality matches and conforms to objective reality. In this case, we can see that his belief is true. And if we take the sense of vision as valid justification, then we can say that Steve knows that there is an apple on a table in front of him. Now let's say that the room was dimly lit, and Steve created a different representation in his mind. Let's say he believes he's seeing an orange. In Steve's perceived reality, there is an orange on a table in front of him. However, we can tell that Steve is wrong in his belief, because his perceived reality does not conform to objective reality. Everything we believe we know about objective reality is simply our perceived reality, that we are convinced matches objective reality out there. It could be an accurate representation of it, or it could be an inaccurate one. That's one reason why honest and sincere people can disagree about facts and objective reality. They simply have different perceived realities. However, how can we tell that our perceived reality matches objective reality? How can we know? How can we be justified? Let's leave that for future videos. Thanks for watching. Whether you agree or disagree with what I've discussed in this video, please feel free to leave a comment and let me know. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and share and to subscribe to my channel. You can also push the bell button to know about my videos as soon as they are out. Until we meet in the next video, be safe and stay curious.